7 o'clock tomorrow night on the East Dock. Make sure he gets it right.
But it's alive! And everyone on the planet's going to line up to appreciate it and everything done.
People would say they could see the fleas. Oh, I can see the fleas. Mummy, can't you see the fleas?
Are these characters autoerotic?
No.
Come on!
Hello everybody, how are you doing? It is Tom here with a special episode of the Jurassic Park Podcast, and in tonight's episode we are going to be diving into some spoiler territory. We're going to be talking about the set locations for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and what was filmed there, as I've just visited them in Surrey with my good friend Raptor Chaser. You can find him at RaptorChaser17 on Twitter, and he does a phenomenal job of keeping everyone informed as to what is happening in the Jurassic filming world. So, we're going to be talking about a few spoilers, things that have been spotted at each location, what was filmed at each location, and some of this may lend itself in terms of being able to figure out what might be happening with the story. So you've been warned. We are talking spoilers. If you don't want any spoilers for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, turn away now. Okay, so most of Fallen Kingdom's UK filming took place in Surrey. We're filming in different places as well. Surrey is about 2 hours away from where I live in the UK, so I decided to travel up there and meet up with Raptor Chaser to go and visit some of the locations. So, for any of you who saw some of the spoilers, Raptor Chaser, along with a guy called Dan and a lady called Layla, got a bunch of the different set photos that we saw in the UK. So they got things like the helicopter and rain footage. I don't know if you have seen that or not. If not, we'll touch on it later. And also images of some of the dinosaurs which were seen on location. So, we started our day off by heading to Pinewood Studios. For those of you that don't know, there is a park next to Pinewood that is called Blackwoods, and it also links up with Black Park. And this is a massive park. It's got loads of pine trees in it. It feels really kind of, I don't know, it feels almost like a step back in time towards the Cretaceous period. It's really interesting when you're walking through it because a lot of the vegetation feels very akin to what you see on Isla Sorna in The Lost World and also Jurassic Park 3. So a lot of the environment feels very similar to where those films were filmed. You do kind of get a sense of Californian redwood to some extent, although it's not as prevalent as, say, some of the other things that you might be able to visit, or the real redwoods, for example. But it certainly feels very different to some of the other forested, there we go, that was a difficult word for me, and also wooded environments in the UK, which is quite interesting. So at Blackwoods, lots of different things have been filmed over the years. Sonny was telling me about James Bond, Harry Potter, loads of different things filmed here and there, which were really interesting. And Raptor Chaser was also really informative with that as well, which was great. When we were talking, we spoke about things like Angel Has Fallen, which is the sequel to London Has Fallen. And while we were actually walking around the side of Pinewood, we found a Wi-Fi signal from the studio for Angel Has Fallen, which was quite exciting because obviously being an active studio, they constantly have new films shooting, and so it was quite interesting to actually find something associated with that. We also found something called Gentle Giants. Whether it's a production company or some other kind of monster film or creature film, we don't know, but that was quite cool. And I was kind of making a joke that maybe it was like Godzilla and Kong being referred to as Gentle Giants or something like that. So that was really cool. It's quite interesting as well because you don't think, like a normal person, me for example, I wouldn't have thought to turn my phone on and check the Wi-Fi at all. But because Raptor Chaser had been there before, he actually told me if he checks his phone, he can get a look at the different Wi-Fi signals and he can see what's going on, which was really cool. And that was actually really insightful into how people perhaps learn where different productions are filming. Black Park itself, obviously, as I mentioned, lots of filming locations, Harry Potter, Captain America, James Bond, and many other films have been filmed there over the years, so it was really cool walking around. It is a very nice park. There's a massive lake in the middle of it, which was quite cool. And although Jurassic hasn't been filmed there, it's just interesting to walk around a location which has been used a lot in film, because it kind of gives a lot of insight into what the location manager and the location scouts for this film were thinking. They were truly looking for locations that I feel reflect quite nicely in terms of what obviously would make a good location for a Jurassic film, and they definitely found some locations which have an air of mystery, perhaps an air of eeriness about them even, which will work really well with some of the rumoured sequences that we're going to see in the new film. So, in addition to obviously Blackwoods, Black Park and Pinewood, as I've spoken about, we actually went past Pie Stock as well, and Pie Stock is really, really cool. For those of you who haven't seen the leaks, I recommend going and checking out Raptor Chase's Twitter. He's got all the pictures over there if you go through his media. Basically, at Pie Stock, they rebuilt the corner of Main Street. So we don't know if perhaps the rest of it was CGI, if the other bits were done inside the studios. But they built the corner of Main Street and also a ruined version of the Pterosaur Cinema at Pie Stock, which was really, really cool. And I can't remember entirely, I think there may have been a little bit of the fencing that comes alongside the Mosasaur Lagoon as well. So they kind of, whatever sequence we're going to be seeing in the Mosasaur Lagoon and around that area, they kind of built there. I know that in trailer 2, we have a short clip of the T-Rex roaring at a helicopter as it's going off that looks like it was shot from the lagoon, like the sidewalk looking upwards from the lagoon. So I would assume that this was shot at Pie Stock, and actually we have some more evidence that points towards it, because during filming a helicopter was seen flying around Pie Stock with a person on a rope ladder climbing up in the rain. So they actually had rain effects going, they had flashes going off for thunder and lightning, which was really, really cool. Again, there's footage out there on Raptor Chase's Twitter if you want to see it, and it looked like a really, really cool shoot that they did over at Pie Stock. I know for a fact they were using the helicopter a lot. They had a lot of cranes set up with spotlights, things like that. So it really looks like this helicopter sequence is actually going to be quite an influential sequence for whilst they're on Nublar. Now, we do know that through concept art, there is going to be a scene where the helicopter is potentially attacked by the Mosasaur. So a lot of people are assuming that this could potentially be the introduction scene to Fallen Kingdom, which would be quite cool. Why they're lifting someone out the lagoon, we don't know. We know that there is a submarine in Fallen Kingdom, so could it be that the submarine's been attacked and someone's trying to escape? That's all up for debate. And again, when you talk about the fact that there is a submarine in the lagoon, why has the submarine gone into the lagoon? The first thing that a lot of people are thinking and theorising is that that submarine has gone into that lagoon to find some DNA from the Indominus Rex. So that could be a really cool piece of connective tissue to transfer us from Jurassic World to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom quite nicely. And I think it would be quite interesting to see what they could do with that. I mean, I'm not sure, it would have to be done tastefully, because I think seeing the corpse of the Indominus could be a bit gruesome. But if it's done correctly, then it could be a really nice way of kind of tying together how we've got to this new hybrid that we see in the sequel. And it could be a really nice way of kind of showing us how these shady corporations and these shady people are still messing with what they shouldn't be messing with. And they essentially can't leave the past to itself. They can't let the past lie, which would be a really nice kind of visual way of representing that, I feel. So that was Pie Stock. Pie Stock, when you head there now, there is absolutely nothing there. It is, I believe, a military or RAF testing facility, so it's a highly secure facility. So literally all we were able to do was park outside the fence briefly. You can't go in. For anyone listening, do not try and break into this location. don't try and get any closer than beyond the fence. I know it can be tempting, but honestly it is not worth getting in trouble. You will get caught, you will get prosecuted, so just do what we did. Stay outside the set, admire the fact that something like Main Street was built there, appreciate that, but don't take it any further. And that is something that I feel carries across nicely to quite a few of their locations. Be respectful of what they say. Don't go breaking into places, don't go climbing over fences, just do what you're entitled to do. If it's public land and you want to take a look at it, that is fine, but beyond that, really you should just leave it to itself. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit, because on the way to Pystock, I think it was, we did go past Langley Business Park and also Langley College. So Langley Business Park is where a bunch of the vehicles were first seen parked up. There was the Belhuey helicopter again before it got moved up to Pystock, because they're not too far away from each other. There were a couple of the capture vehicles, and there was also a vehicle that has the Jurassic World logo on it that is very, very similar to Hasbro's rescue vehicle that they made for the first film. And if you watch the behind the scenes featurette, there is a sequence at night time, in darkness, it's raining, where Ted Levine is sprinting away from something. I think it's either him or Mills, and you do actually see that truck getting flipped over as they're running away from it. So it was really cool kind of seeing the location and recognising it from the photos. A lot of different props and things was stored there during the shoot. When we went past, there were actually, ironically enough, a few things under a tarpaulin. I think that's how you say it. I've always struggled with that word as well. But there were a few things under a tarpaulin, which obviously the likelihood of them being related to Fallen Kingdom is incredibly unlikely. But it was still quite cool seeing stuff sitting exactly where the props for this film were not too long ago. So that was really cool. We also, as I mentioned, went past Langley College. And from what we understand and from what Raptor Chaser has told me, this location is being used as a laboratory for Dr. Wu in the new film. So some of the laboratory footage that you see within the behind the scenes footage will have been done at the college. And also the first selfie, I think it was that BD Wong took as Dr. Wu with the white kind of facility behind him, that was inside the college as well. So that is a really cool location. Obviously it's one that's not publicly accessible, so we couldn't get into it to actually take a look around. But it's still cool to think that was shot there. And actually it's really nice that a college has been involved in the film, because I guess it might encourage even more people to look at how they can progress into careers relating to the films, which is quite nice. Okay, so we then kind of move on to Hollywoods. Now this is Hollywoods, and it can also be referred to as Minley, and this was essentially where Lockwood Manor was constructed. So there's a lot to talk about here. It is a military testing facility for the Royal Engineer Ordnance Corps. So when you arrive on the location, you see a lot of different signs advising you to stay away from suspicious objects, to be careful, and to really not mess around with anything, because there can be explosives left behind during training exercises. So when we arrived there, we had to be really, really careful, because obviously we didn't want to, potentially stand on an explosive. So that was quite interesting. It set an interesting precedent for the whole time there, actually. But being at Hawley was definitely really cool. So there's a lot of public paths there. Mainly follow them, because a lot of dog walkers go through there. So if you stay on a path that's well trodden, you know that you should be okay. And we came up to what is essentially a massive gravel clearing, presumably where military vehicles are left when they're doing exercises. But this gravel clearing does go on for several hundred metres. It is a massive space. I'd say it's maybe even potentially, I wouldn't like to guess, but potentially like half a mile long in total. So there is a lot of space there, and this entire area was fenced off and used during filming. So from what we know, we had a long road that was running up towards the far end of this area, which had a path along it. It also had a bridge going over a simulated river, so there is a river within Lockwood Manor, and it also had the facade of the front of the building, which would presumably be used to match up with the CGI that we see later on. So the front of the building here it was really cool. If you see the behind the scenes featurette again, when they're walking down the steps in an outside environment and one of the crew is holding I think it's the blue head that the member of the crew is holding, that was actually shot at Hawley. So being able to kind of see where this was shot was really, really cool. And actually, if you look at Google Maps, this is something that Raptor Chaser was showing me. At the moment, we're really, really lucky in terms of when Google updated. Some of the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom sets are on there, so we were able to track step for step where we were going, and we actually walked straight down the path that would have once been built there for the set, and we walked up the steps of the manor. And where they would have been, which was really, really cool. So at this location as well, we know there were a bunch of mercenary style vehicles on location. So clearly these are the transport vehicles from Nublar that end up at Lockwood Manor. Whether that's through the Arcadia, which is the boat we see, or something else, I'm not entirely sure, but we know that they get to Lockwood Manor eventually. We also know that several dinosaurs were spotted on set. Off the top of my head, we have the Stegosaurus, we have Blue from Blue's Head, we have the Ankylosaurus, and we also have the Stygimoloch, which is really, really cool. And there's been a lot of talk about Stiggy actually being more than just a standard dinosaur and being a named character. So it seems as if whatever Stiggy gets to do with in Fallen Kingdom will happen at Lockwood Manor. There were also, Raptor Chaser was telling me, loads of exercises done with people practicing in the vehicles. There were loads of cast and crew tents and things set up, which suggests that this was a large scale shoot that happened at Hawley. And there were also tons and tons of extras on site. We also had here black 4x4 vehicles and other vehicles which were presumably being used by the auction guests. And there was, again, a vehicle here as well, which was actually beaten up. So we know that the vehicle suffered some damage at some point, and that, something must have broken out here. And this is supported further by the fact that Raptor Chaser was explaining to me, deeper into the location, a kind of almost storage area. The best way I can explain it is either look at his photos or Smithy MC did an actual build of it. There was like a animal storage area with a blue screen behind it that we're assuming could be the back of Lockwood Manor, where they're like keeping some of the creatures. And Raptor Chaser was explaining it while they were on set, while they were watching the set, while they were filming. There was like simulated explosions and things going on, and animatronics in use that seemed to suggest some kind of breakout sequence occurring. So this is quite cool. I'm excited to see what happens with this breakout sequence actually, as I think it has the potential to be a really, really cool addition to the film. We could see a lot of interesting stuff happen at this location. It is really weird being at this location because where it's an active military site, you do kind of, I don't know, you're always on edge when you're at this location, or at least I felt like I was on edge. So I feel like it's testament to, again, good location scouting, because it is a location that does kind of make you feel a bit wary and a bit on ends, which seems to be kind of what Lockwood Manor is going for, so it definitely matches up really nicely. It is exciting to hear about a lot of the shoots that are going on, and it definitely seems as though, in terms of the UK, the biggest sets were built here at Hawley. So obviously we had the manor, like I spoke about, also the animal storage area, all of the storage crates, the trucks, the other vehicles. I believe that the Raptor Chaser was saying the helicopter that was seen at Pystock was also seen on location here. So possibly whatever they're doing at Nublar, then they are then heading back to Lockwood Manor with in the helicopter. And I also believe, deeper down into the location as well, they also built a gated entrance to Lockwood Manor as well that they were filming with. So this was one of the most widely shared sets. So if you've actually seen any spoilers, it will most likely have been the Lockwood Manor gates. And where they built them is at an intersection within the woods. So it was a really cool location to use. They used some walls to cover up the other two roads, so it's going to just look like a single road going up, but it's actually built at an intersection, which is really, really cool. So that was a really cool location to see. Obviously, there's not much left. We were looking for any indentations or things to kind of indicate where they would have built, but they've done a phenomenal job of covering all that up. And actually, as a film company, when you hire a location, one of the responsibilities you are given is to leave that location in as good as or better condition than when you arrived. So Universal definitely did a good job here in terms of looking after the locations they were filming in, because honestly, looking at the locations, it is hard until you see the Google Maps images and the pictures that Raptor Chaser and others got to really visualise what was there. So they did do a good job with that. The hill going back up towards where the main manor was really, really steep, which was not fun to walk up, but we're hoping that there's going to be a bunch of cool stuff filmed in between the gates and the manor, because it's a really beautiful location. So it has the potential to get some really cool setup shots, some shots of some vehicles moving, just some really, really nice connective shots that would work really well. And again, I do feel like these would summarise how beautiful a location it is. One weird thing for me, at the back of where the animal storage facility was believed to be, there was a actual firing range of sorts. So it's basically a facility that the military can come out to that has a lot of different concrete steps and things, like a dip with water in for aquatic exercises, I believe, and then also a firing range, which was really interesting because it's not an actual MOD site, it is a public site, but you're just advised that it is used for training. So that was really cool, and it was quite surreal to see because it kind of, I don't know, it just makes your brain run wild with all the kind of different potentials that has. Like, could we see dinosaurs and soldiers clashing in the future? So, you know, it was really cool to see, and from a photographical standpoint, it was a really nice location to get to photograph as well. So I feel like I'm really lucky at Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom has introduced these locations to me. Then, moving on, we drove past, we didn't stop at, just because it's a bit of a tricky one to stop at, but we did drive past Blackbush Airport, and this is where the plane that we see in the first trailer actually took off from. So there was a sequence shot there with all of the characters loading onto the plane. I believe there were some supplies dotted around, possibly even a military cargo plane as well, although I don't think there was a cargo plane, it was just the one plane that took off from the location, and there were some like connective shots of the characters getting onto the plane, which was really cool. So they shot with that one plane at that location, and actually while we were at one of the other locations, we saw a plane fly over heading towards Blackbush, which looked a lot like the plane that was used in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which was really, really cool to see. And I got really excited at that, and we found out later that it wasn't the same plane, but it was still just a really cool coincidence that happened, and it just added a lot more to the day as well. So then we started to get a lot later into the day, so we finished up at Bourne Woods, and this is where a location called Owens Campus is. So again, Raptor Chaser has photos of this location, and this location is kind of being used as almost a place where we assume Owen is living before Claire comes to recruit him for the DPG and the rescue mission to Isla Nublar. So here you have a wooden house that's being built by Owen, you have an RV, you have wood stacks, and loads of other stuff here as well. And this is an absolutely beautiful location. I tweeted out and tagged Colin and JA on my Twitter, if you guys were interested, a photo from where they filmed, which was at the top of the hill, and it was absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, words can't explain how beautiful this location was. It was really, really nice, and by far the highlight of the day. You again had to go up a really steep hill to get to the top of it, but once you get to the top of this hill, it's worth it just for the view you get. A funny fact that Raptor Chaser was telling me is there's a manhole in the car park at the location here, and the crew actually had a hose pipe running all the way up the hill to the top, just because they didn't want to have to constantly go up and down this really steep hill to get water, so they had water straight up at the set as well, which is quite funny. But again, you know, it's cool that they were filming at this location. And here I also got told a funny story where one of our friends who was scouting out the location actually walked past Chris Pratt when they were filming here as well. So, you know, obviously he's kicking himself about that, but it's really, really cool that that happened. The location itself, I actually found what looks like a clip from a microphone, and I did a Google search, and it's a clip that goes on a body microphone. So whether that was used to record actors' dialogue for Jurassic World or something else, I don't know, but it's really, really cool, and I just got really excited when I found that. I think overall this was definitely my favourite location, but it felt consistent with the other locations they've shot at, and that's what I like. All the locations were very consistent in their natural kind of feel and the appearance that they went for. Obviously, a lot of it will be changed. The location I shot at Bournemouth is going to be entirely green screened in, because we know that there's a lake there potentially. So it's going to be interesting to see that changed. But it was definitely a really beautiful location. And I think one thing that rings true is how well the location scouts have done in terms of choosing locations which set a new precedent for the franchise, but still feel very authentic to the kind of themes of the franchise. I think it's often hard when you've set something in stone for 4 films to then move on from that and to move on to something different. But what we're moving into, if the locations in the final film look like where they shot, is going to feel like a really natural progression, and it feels almost like something that, I don't know, it feels very authentic to Jurassic, and it feels very authentic to dinosaurs, and it feels very authentic to the kind of environments that you would expect to find them in. I did actually get reminded a lot of where Primeval shot some of its episodes set in the Cretaceous period by these locations, which is actually a really, really good thing to be reminded of, because if you can find somewhere that I suppose makes people think of prehistoric environments, but it's actually a modern day environment, then that's great in kind of getting that twofold thought process that you want your fans to be having. So guys, that kind of brings it to a close. We've spoken about a lot of spoilers. You get an idea that maybe there's a breakout at Lockwood Manor, there's a lot of other stuff going on here, some sequences at Main Street. So really a lot of stuff going on in this film, and a lot of stuff filmed in the UK, which is really, really exciting for us UK fans to be able to go and visit them. As I said, make sure you go and check out Raptor Chaser at Raptor Chaser 17. He has got some phenomenal photos of all of the filming as it was going on, and he will be more than happy to share them with you. And if you're a UK fan as well, he's always happy to take people around the sets, which is awesome. So it was really, really cool seeing where they filmed, seeing how beautiful these locations are. Makes me really excited to see them on the big screen in Fallen Kingdom, and I can't wait to see what these new locations in the third act are going to set up for Jurassic World 3. That's all from this spoiler segment, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're considering visiting the locations yourself now if you're in the UK, and until the next time, guys, I hope that you have a great week.
Make sure to visit JurassicParkPodcast.com to find all our past episodes, brand new news articles, information on how to contact us, and much more. It's a great source for everything related to the podcast, and of course Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Head to JurassicParkPodcast.com and help us build a great community.
Anybody hear that?
5 minutes. Drop what you're doing and leave now.